Hey, all, and welcome back to another episode of There's Danger Here. I'm Leilani, and today we're just going to jump right into it. Since Idaho is reinstating death by firing squad, I thought I would take this time to talk about the history and move forward. The media has reported on Idaho as it prepares to bring about the return of the death by firing squad. The state already has 8 death row inmates set to face the squad in the near future. In a weird twist, it'll use volunteers to fire the rifles, though it won't be just anyone who can take part. The volunteers must be law enforcement officers with high marksmanship ratings and have at least 3 years of peace officer standards and training certifications. The identities of the riflemen will remain confidential under state law, which is understandable. The squad will have 3 primary officers that will fire the initial rounds of shots and have 2 alternates on standby for a second volley as needed. The 6th man will be the one who loads the .308 Daniel Defense DD5P battle rifles equipped with scopes and suppressors and bipods. The 6th man also will direct the execution. The executions will be inside a chamber built into the Idaho Maximum Security Institution, where the inmate will be strapped to a specifically designed chair and will have heart monitoring equipment, much like when a person is executed in any other fashion, attached to them. Notably, a target will also get placed over their heart. An eye covering can be requested by the inmate after their final statement. The primary officers will shoot through a foot-wide opening and protective wall approximately 10 yards away from the prisoner. Their heart rate will be monitored for up to 2 minutes after the first volley, and if they remain alive, will have a second volley administered. This comes after Thomas Creech was set to be executed in February of 2024, but it was abandoned when the staff failed to start the IVs necessary. While there's already complaints of the barbarity of this method, another state has already been using this method. In fact, 5 states authorized death by firing squad for years: Mississippi, Oklahoma, South Carolina, and Utah, and now the addition of Idaho. Idaho is the only state to change the firing squad to be the primary form of execution, while the others use it as a secondary or if chosen by the inmate, and there have been a couple instances where inmates have chosen death by firing squad. South Carolina used the method chosen by death row inmate Brad Sigmund in March of 2025. Brad was strapped to a chair and had a hood placed over his head. A 3-person squad fired upon Brad with .308A Winchester Tap urban bullets, followed by a doctor's examination who declared him dead approximately 90 seconds after being shot, which is pretty quick. In April 2025, Michael Mahdi was executed next by the state. Michael continued breathing for 80 seconds after being shot, and his autopsy revealed 2 of the 3 bullets entered his body. The bullet entered the left ventricle and then damaged the liver. And I have issues here because a pathologist reported shooters didn't hit the intended target. I'm confused on how it can be reported that the left ventricle was hit, and yet that wasn't the target. The left ventricle is the heart's strongest chamber that pumps blood into the aorta. So, they hit the heart. I will concede he likely didn't die immediately, but death isn't instantaneous like the movies would portray in almost all cases. He would have to bleed out rapidly. And again, this would have happened from the result of the hole in his ventricle. Then in 2025, Stephen Corey Bryant was executed. Historically, since 1608, at least 144 people have been executed by way of firing squad, the bulk of which actually occur in Utah. The first recorded execution occurred in 1608 in Jamestown, Virginia. Suspected mutineer Captain James Kendall, who was believed to have been conspiring with Spain, was executed at this time. During the Civil War, at least 185 men were executed, most commonly as the result of desertion, though approximately 1% or slightly under of civilians were also put to death in this way at this time. In 1851, Utah designated 3 punishments for murder: shooting, hanging, or beheading. This state also used the firing squad during the time of the Old West. It's the most common form of execution. In 1913, Nevada executed someone in a version of the firing squad. The state had a contraption built that fired 3 guns when a string was pulled. It sounds like here they had issues getting men to volunteer for the firing squad, and so they made this contraption to A, make it a little more anonymous, and B, it's only one man pulling the string. After a decades-long pause in Utah, Gary Gilmore volunteered to be executed in 1977. Then, in June of 2010, Ronnie Gardner chose and was executed in the same manner. His execution was not as planned, and reports indicate following the volley, Ronnie clutched his into a fist several times. A witness reported it was in, quote, excruciating wait for Gardner to die, end quote. Autopsy showed the bullets landed to the left of Ronnie's heart. The exit holes appeared out of anticipated trajectory, according to Ohio State University professor Dr. Jonathan Groner. But again, I have issue with his report on the exit holes, unless he's also a weapons expert, simply because, as is well known by anyone who knows even the slightest about bullets, that they are affected by what they hit. I guess for the lack of better terms, anyway. So if it nicks a rib, the path can be altered. Going through organs and slowing can also change the way that the bullet moves and where it may exit. Some bullets are actually designed to ricochet within the body to cause maximum damage, much like the munitions the military uses. Which is why you can shoot someone in the chest and it can come out their neck. So, how is he guesstimating exit trajectory and saying it was incorrect? Anyway, Utah uses a 5-person firing squad. They have 30 caliber rifles, each loaded with 2 rounds. One of the 5 of these rifles is actually loaded with blank rounds, ensuring the squad does not know who causes the inmate's death. That's another reason they have multiple people shooting at the same time. But firing squads are not without flaws, as proposed by the doctors I did mention before. I acknowledge that. I mean, how many times do hunters miss their target, even when their targets are standing still? Historically, there have been cases of issues. Again, another such event was in 1877 when Wallace Wilkerson was sentenced to death after shooting a man during a game of cribbage. Wallace moved slightly just before the shot, and when fired upon, he fell down, stating, quote, "My God, they've missed it," end quote. After which Wallace remained alive for another 15 minutes before he succumbed to his injuries. But in the same respect, there are reports of all other types of executions being botched reported throughout history, lots of them very recently. Lethal injection has the most issues, though it was also widely used at the time of the states that have the death penalty. Firing squads also may have had this resurgence since after 2015, the drug companies stopped authorizing the delivery of medication used in lethal injection to be exported to the US, or at least they really don't like to do it as much as they do. There have been a lot of public information and outcries against this, and so the companies don't want to give it to places that use it for lethal injection. It was after this, in March of 2015, Utah allowed death by firing squad in the event where medications for lethal injection are unavailable. In a similar line, in 2019, South Carolina actually brought back both the electric chair and added the firing squad. Again, this is if the medication for lethal injection is not available. In 2023, Tennessee even debated using the firing squad as one of its means of execution. Now, before I end this, and I know it sounds like a shorter episode, I will say the US is not the only country to have history with firing squads. Many other countries either have or had them or they continue to use them. Some countries used it frequently during times of war. For example, in Belgium, German armies used the firing squad against its enemies multiple times, to include against a British nurse, Edith Cavell, on October of 1915. Cuba continues to use it as part of their system. Finland executed over 400 people by firing squad during World War II. Similarly, France executed many people during the same time, including U.S. Army Private Eddie Slovik after a desertion charge. France's last execution by firing squad occurred on March 11, 1963. Jean-Baptiste Thiers was convicted and executed after a failed attempt to assassinate French President Charles de Gaulle. Indonesia also uses the same penalty, but it isn't reserved for murder, treason, or violent crimes. The country has executed those convicted of drug-related crimes, including 8 people on a single day in April 29, 2015. Nigeria also continues to use this as their main form of punishment for those who commit armed robberies and attempt coups. Russia should be added to the list, though it is reported that the bulk of these actually occurred during the Soviet Union era, during a time called the Great Purge, and instead of a squad, people were just executed, shot in the back of the head, falling to their graves. The United Kingdom, again, has to be included. The UK has a caveat as well, generally using firing squads only during times of war. It is reported that it is not strictly outlawed in all circumstances. During World War I and World War II, the Tower of London was used as the site of executions. 346 individuals were shot for desertion, while another approximately 11 is what I could confirm, German soldiers were executed there. Many other countries have used this form of capital punishment at one time or another throughout history. There are also other countries that continue, like I said, to use this method, or at least have it available to use. And lastly, I am going to include the recent information. So, a 23-year-old British woman, Brooke George, is facing the possibility of death by firing squad in Dubai. Brooke met 26-year-old William Treby and went to Dubai to meet him. The first trip, according to everyone, the couple appeared to have a wonderful time. This prompted Brooke to agree to return to Dubai for a second meetup. According to family, Brooke told them that William acted different, and after a night of drinking, Brooke reported that William assaulted her, punched her, withheld her passport, and had even actually only bought a one-way ticket. She had no way home. And continued to attack her, and so she grabbed a knife in self-defense, ultimately killing William. Brooke was arrested on June 22nd, 2026, and her case is still ongoing. And with that, to all those out there listening, be careful. It's a dangerous world we live in.